Welcome to State of the Offense, your unbiased coverage of your favorite team's offense, the Kansas City Chiefs. With a reputation as respected as the Chiefs, there is no reason to believe that fans in Kansas City should expect nothing less than a championship-level offense every year. Last year, the Chiefs finished first in total offense, first in passing, 20th in rushing, and first in scoring. They earned a 14-3 regular season record and eventually won the Super Bowl. In the skill positions, the team brings back most of their contributors from last season. Juju Smith-Schuster and Mecole Hardman are the two most productive players whom the Chiefs lost. One of the differences between State of the Offense and your typical fantasy football show is that we also cover the offensive line and how they impact the performance of the offense for fantasy purposes. The Chiefs will be starting a new left tackle this season as they lost Orlando Brown Jr. to Cincinnati in free agency. In his place is Donovan Smith, who has spent his entire 8-year career in Tampa Bay. With the Buccaneers, Smith played in 13 games with a 78.1% snap share, and he graded at a 73. His 73 grade places him in the 29-30 range of projected starting left tackles. Smith is signed to a 1-year deal. Left guard Joe Thuney is entering his third season with the Chiefs. Thuney played in 15 games with an 86.2% snap share with an 88 grade. His 88 tied him with center Creed Humphrey as the team's top offensive lineman in 2022, and he's the third best left guard in the NFL. Thuney is signed with Kansas City through 2025. In Creed Humphrey's second year, he improved from an 80 to an 88 grade, which made him the number 5 center in the league. Humphrey played in all 17 games, and he had a 99.4% snap share. Multiple Pro Bowls are likely a part of Humphrey's future. Trey Smith is entering the third year of his career, and he improved from his rookie year to his second year, similarly to Creed Humphrey, but with lesser results. Smith improved from a 77 to an 81. Smith is tied with Cincinnati's Alex Kappa as the 8th best right guard in football. The projected starting right tackle is Jawan Taylor, who spent his entire 4-year career in Jacksonville. Taylor played in all 17 games for the Jaguars with a 97.6% snap share. His 79 grade was a career high. It ranked him 10th among projected starting right tackles in the league. The Chiefs inked Taylor to a 4-year deal, and he is a 25-year-old player whose game is improving. The Chiefs have some uncertainty long-term at the left tackle position, but the other 4 positions are secured and should grow well together over the next few years. Smith is not an elite left tackle, but he will do for 2023. Ironically, both Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill had great seasons apart from each other, much to the dismay of many in sports media. Mahomes had career highs in completion percentage, yards passing, yards rushing per carry, and rushing touchdowns. Now he is a 2-time champion, and he has taken the mantle as the best quarterback in the NFL. As expected, Mahomes was the quarterback 1 in fantasy football, both in total points and average points. He is the quarterback 1 on draft boards, and his average draft position is at the 14 spot. If you have the number 11 overall pick and get Patrick Mahomes with pick 14, whom should you draft to be your 1-2 punch with Mahomes? Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, Devontae Adams, and Stephon Diggs are the players that are currently above Mahomes. To me, the answer for now is Stephon Diggs. In spite of Diggs missing a practice in June, he is the player that represents the best situation of all of them. Running backs get hurt more than wide receivers, and Barkley, Taylor, and Henry have all missed their fair share of time. Adams has an uncertain quarterback situation in Las Vegas with Jimmy Garoppolo's injury situation. I trust Stephon Diggs with Josh Allen more than I trust the Raiders situation. Saquon is in a contract situation, and he has not signed his tender for the 5th-year option. Taylor just had the worst year of his career, where he spent half the year injured, and Derrick Henry has no one on his offense who is any good in Tennessee. The offensive line in Tennessee is weak, and the passing game is weak in Tennessee. If you don't care about those things and you still want a running back with Mahomes, I trust Taylor over Barkley and Henry. One question many fantasy players ask, is it worth taking a quarterback with what is almost a first-round pick? I never want to be left out of the elite quarterback market personally, but I usually don't want to be the first person to take a quarterback off the board. I think that Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and Jalen Hurts are all close enough to Mahomes. Allen and Hurts are late seconds, and Burrow is a mid-third right now. If you're at 11 and 14 on your first two picks and you pass on Mahomes, none of the top four are going to necessarily be available to you at pick 35 when you pick again. If you're a Mahomes guy, do you really want to settle for Lamar Jackson? He will be the best of the bunch if you pass on Mahomes. For your information, Justin Fields and Justin Herbert are going in the 50s. But do you believe in them as much as you believe the top four quarterbacks? If Mahomes is available to you in the second round and you ended up with Travis Kelce in the first round, just take the Kansas City Mahomes-Kelce stack and enjoy all the fantasy points they provide. The Kansas City wide receiver situation is less certain this year than it was last year. Juju is in New England. The statistical top returning wide receiver is Marquez Valdes-Scantling. MVS has been a complimentary receiver his whole career. Will he attract the 101 targets that Juju Smith-Schuster did last year? He was the wide receiver 54 in points and the wide receiver 77 in points per game. He is currently the 66th wide receiver drafted in the 168 spot, which puts him in the 15th round. Mid-season trade acquisition, Kadarius Toney is the second wide receiver listed on the depth chart. Toney flashed some good numbers as a rookie, but he was in Brian Dable's doghouse in New York and he barely got onto the field and then was shipped to the Chiefs. There are three games that should stick out to you when you look at Kadarius Toney's potential. In his second game in Kansas City versus the Jaguars, he played 28 snaps, had 5 targets, 4 catches, 2 rushes for 90 scrimmage yards and a touchdown. In the playoffs against the Jaguars, he played 20 snaps, was second in targets to Travis Kelce with 7 targets, second in receptions with 5, had 1 rush, and still totaled 50 scrimmage yards. In the Super Bowl, a receiving touchdown and a 65-yard punt return that put the Chiefs at the Philadelphia 5-yard line. Now the bad news on Kadarius Toney. In 2 years, 19 regular season games played, only 55 catches, 591 receiving yards, 88 yards rushing, and 3 touchdowns. As a fantasy football option, Kadarius Toney is super risky. He was the wide receiver 100 in total points and wide receiver 84 in points per game. He is the number 45 wide receiver currently drafted at pick 116, going in the 10th round. I know he was a first-round pick 2 years ago. I know he has Patrick Mahomes as his quarterback, but he's barely played in 2 years. Can he stay healthy through a 100-target and 20-carry season? The third wide receiver on the depth chart is last year's second-round pick, Sky Moore. In snap share, he was the number 5 wide receiver on the team. He came from Western Michigan in the MAC, and rookies from small schools usually have a bigger adjustment to the NFL. The fact that Moore was on the field and in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl, his snap share went up. He even caught a touchdown in the Super Bowl, verifies that the Chiefs organization believes in Sky Moore. He is currently the wide receiver 56 drafted at the 157 spot going in the 14th round. In the playoffs, Moore outsnapped Toney in every game at a 72-30 pace overall. In average draft position, the Kansas City wide receiver order is Toney, Moore, Rashee Rice, Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Toney is going 4 rounds ahead of Moore, 5 rounds ahead of Rice, 5 rounds ahead of MVS. His injury history makes me want to stay away from him. The fact that Sky Moore was on the field more than Toney makes me think that the coaches trust him more than Toney. The Chiefs did add to the mix in the draft and did add another G5 school wide receiver in the second round with Rashee Rice from SMU. His style is closer to Juju Smith-Schuster's than the other guys. Somehow he is 1 spot ahead of MVS in average draft position. This doesn't make sense to me to be ahead of any veteran wide receiver on the team. If you are a Kadarius Toney believer, try to wait until about the 13th round if you can. I think that MVS and Sky Moore can both be considered in the 13th to 14th round as well. I would stay away from Rashee Rice until he cracks the starting lineup, and then he would be a waiver wire pickup. I trust MVS the most, followed by Sky Moore, then Kadarius Toney. Travis Kelce is a first ballot Hall of Fame tight end. He had career highs in receptions, targets, and touchdowns as a 33-year-old in his 9th season. He is possibly the best asset in fantasy football because of his position dominance. This guy wins fantasy championships, period. He was the number 9 player in total points between combined wide receivers, running backs, and tight ends in PPR formats. He was number 11 overall in points per game between combined running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends in PPR, all from the tight end position, which is the toughest position to get points scored in. In points per reception, he outscored the tight end 2, George Kittle, by 115 total points. He averaged 4.8 more points per game than George Kittle. Just to give you an indication of Kelce's dominance, Austin Eckler outscored Christian McCaffrey by 11 points for the year and by 0.6 in points per game. Justin Jefferson outscored Devontae Adams by 21 total points for the year. And in points per game for wide receivers, Cooper Kupp beat Justin Jefferson by 2.9 points per game. At quarterback, Patrick Mahomes beat Josh Allen by 3 total points for the year and 0.2 points per game. My question is, why is Travis Kelce still going as the number 6 overall player when he dominates his position so much more than any other player? The days of waiting for a tight end in the second round are over until Travis Kelce starts to decline. If you have the number 1 overall pick and you draft Travis Kelce, I'm not arguing with you. As long as he's on the field, he's bust-proof. By the way, Kelce's backup, Noah Gray, was 5th in total snaps on the roster behind Mahomes, Kelce, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and Juju Smith-Schuster. This guy is very athletic, and he jumped up from 36 yards receiving for the year as a rookie to 299. His targets jumped from 10 to 34, and his receptions from 7 to 28. In his career, Gray has caught 79.5% of the passes thrown to him. Don't be surprised if Noah Gray cashes in on the opportunity of no number 3 wide receiver emerging from the lineup. No one is drafting Gray, but you have to understand he had a 52% snap share in the regular season and a 59.1% snap share in the playoffs. If he scores 10 or more fantasy points in week 1, you heard it from me first. The Kansas City backfield is returning their top 3 running backs from a season ago. Rookie 7th round draft pick Isaiah Pacheco emerged as the number 1 rusher on the team. Pacheco provided something no other back on the team did with his hard running style. He was the running back 36 in points and running back 49 in points per game for PPR leagues. Jerick McKinnon served as the receiving back, and in PPR formats, he was the running back 19 in points and 26 in points per game. Former first-round pick Clyde Edwards-Helaire was a running back 49 in points and the running back 40 in points per game in PPR formats. Isaiah Pacheco is getting drafted as the running back 23, player 69 overall. Jerick McKinnon is the running back 38, going at pick 124, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire is running back 62 drafted. In PPR formats, getting Jerick McKinnon is a great move in the 11th round. Pacheco in PPR is totally overdrafted in the 6th round. Clyde Edwards-Helaire isn't really getting drafted at all, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the most versatile of the backs, and he was the highest draft pick in this group. He's had some injury troubles, but this guy has a nose for the end zone, and he could catch the ball. Clyde Edwards-Helaire can outplay Pacheco and McKinnon in the preseason. You might want to sneak him in the last round in PPR leagues. McKinnon is also a more reliable option than Pacheco because McKinnon usually outsnaps Pacheco during the season. The Chiefs have an explosive offense, but outside of Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, everything is up for grabs. In PPR drafts, McKinnon and Clyde Edwards-Helaire bring more value than Isaiah Pacheco. In non-PPR leagues, leave them alone and go for Pacheco. The wide receiver situation is a big guessing game. MVS is the most proven player, but he's currently the 4th wide receiver drafted from the Chiefs. I think that Kadarius Toney is one of the top risk-reward picks this year. I actually trust Sky Moore more than any other wide receiver on the team. The super deep sleeper on the team is tight end Noah Gray, who has a defined role and improved dramatically from his rookie year. The Chiefs are good enough to win the Super Bowl in any given year with Patrick Mahomes. Coach Reid has built a culture in Kansas City that is one of the most respected in the NFL. Super Bowl hangover and a loaded AFC will make getting to the Super Bowl more difficult. If the Chiefs stay healthy during the season, they may have a record-breaking offense in regards to production this year. If you like today's coverage of the Kansas City Chiefs offense, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.